Welcome to the Leroy and Elena Show, your go-to podcast for all things pop culture. I'm Leroy Jones.
And I'm Elena Lopez.
And each week we break down movies, TV, music, and more, with laughs, hot takes, and plenty of brutally honest opinions.
Quick disclaimer. All thoughts shared here are solely ours and don't reflect the views of Princess Toy Nerd Studios. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Leroy and Elena Show. I'm Leroy Jones.
And I'm Elena Lopez, and today we are celebrating, surviving, enduring Game of Thrones, also known as the greatest show that gives you PTSD by mercilessly killing your favorite characters while weaving a complex, brutal tale of dragons and betrayal.
15 years. 15 years since this show came into our lives and said to us, "Hey, I heard that you like characters. That's good. Now you can watch them die."
And then immediately ripped them away from us, making us cry out, "Oh no, he didn't," while our hearts shattered into a million tiny irreparable pieces. And when I say he, I mean George R.R. Martin, the man responsible for paying my therapy bills.
This episode is rated PG-13, by the way. Not because we're out of control,
but because Game of Thrones emotionally scarred an entire generation and we need to use some very strong language to cope. Okay, let's go back to 2011. When did you first watch it?
For me, I watched it back in season 1, when it was live on HBO. Week to week. Back when you had time to process trauma before the next episode dropped. And that was long before the emergence of binge watching.
You had recovery time, Leroy. I, however, didn't get to have that luxury at all because the unrelenting chaos demanded my immediate and absolute attention.
Exactly. And even then, I was not prepared. I went in thinking, oh, it's just a fantasy TV show, dragons eventually, cool politics. And that was only the first episode of the show.
Leroy, that was the same mistake that everyone else made, expecting the show to be either boring or a Lord of the Rings ripoff instead of a gritty masterpiece that we all know that it is.
In my defense, nobody warned me that this show doesn't play by any rules as it subverted every expectation with shocking and brutal efficiency.
As for me, I started watching Game of Thrones during season 2 and everyone was like, "Catch up, Elena, it's amazing." And I'm like, okay, cool, I like fantasy. And then I saw Ned Stark, who was played by Sean Bean, who also played Boromir in The Lord of the Rings. We all know where this is going.
And there it is.
Let's just say it plainly. Ned Stark lost his head in the 9th episode of the first season. I must admit that I really did not see that coming.
I remember sitting there thinking, okay, there's a last-minute rescue incoming. Tony Stark is going to swoop in at the last second and save Ned while Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli fight off the Lannister guards. It's going to be okay.
Of course you did, Leroy. You've been trained by TV to expect that. And I was half expecting Viserys III Targaryen, your great and awesome king, to swoop into King's Landing on his magical flying purple dragon and put an end to this crap show. That would have been so ironic.
The hero gets saved. Justice prevails. And the Lannisters get what they deserve as the crushing weight of their many sins finally collapses around them. That's how it goes in every other fantasy TV show, am I right?
And George R.R. Martin and HBO looked us straight in the eye and said, "Nope. What a travesty."
The show basically said, what if consequences of being good were real? Meaning, Ned Stark, the most honorable man in Westeros, falls victim to the executioner's axe while the stunned crowd watches in a state of disbelief.
I stared at my screen like it had personally betrayed me. And I've read the books too.
That was the moment the show told you, this is different. And different isn't always good, as the cruel reality of this dark world begins to settle.
Next up, we have to talk about us watching Game of Thrones with Christina Marsdale and Susie Speckles from Fandom Fun Days. And that happened starting with the show's 3rd season.
Because that turned our podcasting sessions into a full-blown emotional event that did not just entertain us, but completely devastated our senses and redefined how we view television drama.
Christina is analytical. She's like, from a narrative standpoint, this scene builds tension and reinforces the themes of power.
And Susie is in the back of the room yelling, if anyone else dies, I'm done with this show.
And then someone dies.
Every time we watched the show.
We'd all be sitting there, snacks in hand, thinking, okay, this episode seems calm. Calm and quiet.
And when an episode of a TV show is calm, that's when you should be the most afraid.
Christina would go, this is too quiet, and Susie would go, don't say that. Don't summon it. And Leroy and I would say nothing the whole time.
But it was already summoned. And we had no idea that it would bring us so much trouble.
Which brings us to the next part of this show. We cannot avoid it. We can't deny that it never happened. We have no other choice but to talk about the Red Wedding. I mean, do we really have to talk about that episode?
Yeah, we do. We have no other choice but to talk about the Red Wedding.
That episode broke people. And when I say that, I mean there were countless YouTube videos showing shell-shocked fans screaming at their television screens in absolute disbelief during those final moments.
I remember watching that particularly infamous episode with you, Christina, and Susie on June 2, 2013. And the entire vibe of the show shifted the second the music changed.
All the book readers, many who also watched the show, in the room got real quiet.
That should have been the warning sign that things were going to go downhill. For the Starks, that was.
And by the time everyone noticed the change in the music, it was too late.
And then it just kept getting worse. Especially for everyone watching the show.
There's no relief from this. No pause. No moment of reflection. Just escalation.
At that point, Susie stood up. She was pacing. She kept saying, no. 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 And yet, the show kept playing, as if it didn't care that we were going to be traumatized.
I think I said, they're not really going to do all of this, right?
Unfortunately, Elena, they did all of it. Almost everything that happened in the book during the Red Wedding ended up on the screen in a visceral display of pure, unadulterated tragedy.
And more. As in, I learned that George R. Martin was a master of suspense who finds joy in shattering our expectations.
That episode totally changed the internet forever. Everyone was either screaming, crying, or warning their friends. I spent an hour and a half talking to Ryan Stark about how that singular, brutal moment shifted the cultural landscape and left every single viewer speechless.
Or saying, I told you so. If they read the books. Like, did I even want to hear that while I'm sobbing my eyes out over watching Robb Stark die?
Those people were too calm to respond to such a catastrophic event like the Red Wedding. I didn't trust them. And they wonder why I get mad at them whenever they cry about why The Winds of Winter isn't in bookstores yet, considering they lack the true emotional investment required to appreciate the weight of such literary delays.
Let's take a second to talk about Oberyn Martell, the legendary Red Viper himself.
Oh, this one is definitely going to hurt a lot, even more than we anticipated.
Because he gave you hope. The kind of hope that slowly blinds you to the inevitable and crushing darkness ahead.
Exactly. He's charismatic, confident, skilled. You're like, okay, some form of justice might actually happen here.
And for a moment it looks like it will. Especially for Tyrion, who finally sees a flicker of light in his darkness.
That's the cruel part. We thought that Oberyn was actually going to win, but then a single moment of hesitation led to his gruesome demise.
Then the show goes, psych! You really thought he was going to win, but instead he got his head squashed like a watermelon. And that was one of the moments that gave us all PTSD.
I physically recoiled. As in, I pushed myself away from the screen in absolute, utter horror. I didn't want to even look at it.
Same. I turned away from the screen and started crying as the realization of that horrific scene finally began sinking in.
And Susie? She just screamed and cursed, as usual.
Christina again, calm but totally horrified with everything that just happened, goes, that aligns with the themes of
Read the room, Christina. Oberyn Martell just died and your analytical brain is already dissecting the tactical errors he made instead of feeling the weight of this tragedy.
We were not ready for analysis in that moment. But Christina was right when she said that his overwhelming desire for a confession eventually became the very thing that sealed his tragic fate.
Here's the thing, it wasn't just shock for shock's sake. Not when these things already happened in the book, as they were written by an old man who delights in watching them cry over his characters.
Right. The writing made these moments matter, such as how the characters treated various events that happened in the books with a level of gravity that felt both earned and devastating.
Actions had consequences. Decisions carried weight.
And characters weren't protected by plot armor.
That's what made Game of Thrones so addictive. You can't predict what happens next on the show.
And you couldn't look away no matter how hard you try.
This episode is brought to you by Iron Throne Energy Drink. Tired of feeling like you just survived an emotionally devastating episode? Take back your power with Iron Throne Energy Drink. The only beverage strong enough to get you through betrayals, battles, and shocking plot twists. Flavors include Wildfire Citrus, Dragonfruit Fury, and Winter is Coming Iced Berry.
I tried Wildfire Citrus. It woke me up immediately.
Too true. In fact, I took one sip and immediately saw my entire life flashing before my eyes.
Try the Iron Throne Energy Drink today. And remember, when it comes to the Iron Throne Energy Drink, you either win, or you pass out dramatically. We now return to the show, which is currently in progress.
As for the cultural impact, Game of Thrones wasn't just popular, it was dominant, shaping the very way we consume and discuss modern television.
Everyone was watching. Everyone was talking, making it the central pillar of every single social conversation.
Sunday nights were appointment television, bringing millions together to witness the unfolding drama in real time.
And Monday mornings were recap central. I should know, as we reviewed the show with Christina and Susie to dissect every shocking twist for our growing online audience.
If you didn't watch it on time, you were doomed to spoilers, especially from Susie. She didn't show any mercy when it came to revealing every single major character death.
And there was no escape. You either watched the show, or you suffer, because the entire digital world refused to keep any secrets quiet.
Let's talk about the show's legacy, as it fundamentally redefined the boundaries of high-budget epic fantasy storytelling.
I don't know about you, but it's complicated, much like the intricate webs of power woven within Westeros.
Very complicated. As in the way its ending left many fans feeling deeply conflicted.
The early seasons. Some of the best TV ever made, showcasing masterclass writing and character development that kept audiences worldwide completely glued to their screens.
No question. Even though I have more than a few questions about the inadequacy of how some of the things were handled, especially during the second season, as I don't agree with the specific creative liberties taken with certain character arcs that deviated too far from the source.
The later seasons sparked debate. Mainly because the TV show ran out of books and some things in the books were deemed not suitable for filming, forcing the writers to navigate uncharted and often controversial territory.
That's a polite way to put it. But at least it stayed kind of consistent all the way through.
But even with those issues, the show's impact is still undeniable, leaving a permanent mark on the landscape of global pop culture.
It changed storytelling. It raised expectations. It even paved the way for high-budget fantasy to become mainstream hits.
And it taught audiences to expect the unexpected, proving that even the most central characters were never truly safe.
Now that 15 years has passed, how do you feel about it, considering the massive shift in how we view fantasy today?
Grateful, impressed, slightly traumatized, yet deeply inspired by the sheer ambition of the entire production.
Same. But I can't help but wonder how differently the final chapters would have played out on screen.
Would I watch Game of Thrones again?
Not without emotional support.
And a warning label. Because the show gives people PTSD due to its brutal in-your-face realism.
And maybe have Christina and Susie join us when we watch the show again, because if we're suffering together.
Exactly. And we should also get Ryan involved, as he's Ryan Stark, and we can tease him for having the name Stark while jokingly asking if he plans on reclaiming Winterfell before the next winter season arrives. That's our episode. 15 years of Game of Thrones, a masterpiece that broke our hearts repeatedly and gave us PTSD.
And we'd probably do it all over again. But this time we would savor each moment while preparing ourselves for the inevitable heartbreak that follows every episode.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching our show. If you enjoyed this episode, please like this video, leave a comment about which part of the show was your favorite and subscribe to the Princess Toy Nerd YouTube channel so you never miss out on our upcoming weekly adventures. I'm Leroy Jones.
And I'm Elena Lopez. If you're still suffering from Game of Thrones related PTSD, I highly recommend getting some professional help to process those lingering feelings of betrayal regarding the final season's rushed and controversial character conclusions. Do it now. Your mental health will thank you later.
We'll be back next week when we talk about Skeletor once again. Did you know that our podcast was jump-started after we spoke about Skeletor, and we even rated his insults to determine which verbal jabs were truly the most legendary while exploring how his iconic villainous charm helped us find our creative voice and build this incredible community together online. And we'll be talking about him again, so stay tuned for that. That's a wrap for this week's episode of the Leroy and Elena Show. Big thanks to my co-writers Casey Stone, David Woods, and Bostwick Thompson, and of course to the incredible team at Princess Toy Nerd Studios for giving us their channel for our podcast.
If you love the show, don't forget to subscribe to the Princess Toy Nerd YouTube channel for more laughs, stories, and exclusive content.
Until next time, I'm Leroy Jones.
And I'm Elena Lopez, reminding you all to keep having fun and staying curious.